Once every generation, there comes an event that alters how we perceive our world. That changes our expectations of what is possible. This is not really one of those events. But hey, Toxic Radio has a brand new studio, and that fucking rocks. So join us in celebrating our excellent new home. Toxic Radio. Awesomer than ever before. What? That is so a word. Planning your Saturday night can be a bit of a bitch. How about we make rock, not more? Load up Toxic Radio every Saturday night for the heavy metal happy hour with the one and only Fishman.
I don't know how to put this, but I'm kind of a big deal.
There will be interviews, ticket giveaways, a little bit of banter with Toxic Mike, and of course great metal from the 80s all the way through today. Starts at 7 p.m., runs until Fish says it's over.
Get out.
Catch it only on Toxic Radio. Don't play it safe. Play it toxic. While you're rocking with us at Toxic Radio, don't forget to check us out on social media.
I want details, and I want them right now.
Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook.
Now you're talking, brother.
Chat with us, keep up on news. Just don't make it weird. Don't be a stalker. Don't be that guy.
You just want to suck the joy out of everything.
Toxic Radio. Get infected.
Welcome to Paradelphia. We are back here on Toxic Radio for show number 295. We are getting there. We are inching ever so closer to our big number 300 show, which may happen sometime, definitely this summer, sometime in mid-June perhaps. So we're getting there. But this show is number 295, and we have a fun one on tap here for you tonight. If you guys are following the social media, I posted a couple days ago. The topic of tonight's show is something that kind of came out of left field for me. I had not heard this before in my entire life up until about, I don't know, whenever I posted that social media post about 2-3 days ago. So apparently tagging on to our, the new upswing in UFO stories and new interest in the UFO topic, I kind of looked into what I think is a very low-key, unknown segment of that topic, and that is how the king of rock and roll, Elvis Presley, was intimately involved with UFOs. We're going to get into the story here, but yeah, Mike brings up a little Elvis alien there. That might not be so far from the truth. So we're going to talk about that in a little bit here. But before we get to all that, I have a few things I want to bring up here. First one is a little shout out to somebody that I found out right before the show was on the mend. You guys, she hasn't been in the studio for quite a long time, but you guys all remember our good friend Melly Blankenship. She basically has been out of the studio, working hard for the last, I don't know, it's probably been a year now since she's been in here. And I found out today that her mom, who's a big fan of the show, Anna McNiss, is actually in the hospital. She's got it's a bunch of different stuff going on. So I wanted to just pass on a get well soon, because I know she listens to the show, and we appreciate that. We appreciate everybody listening to the show. But I know Anna's been a big long time listener since practically day one. So hopefully all goes well there, and she gets out very soon and heals very, very quickly. The other thing I wanted to bring up is a little more upbeat. It's getting to be almost that time of year again. We've done this for the last 2 summers now, and it is now mid to late May, so it's not so very far off from our favorite little festival, Blobfest. Blobfest 2021. Believe it or not, we are right around the corner from that. All right, that is actually happening this year on July 9th through the 11th. And again, because of the COVID restrictions up in Phoenixville, I don't think you can have live events in Phoenixville till October, I believe it is. So it's going to be a virtual event again this year. But I did want to bring it up and just kind of start throwing it out there. We're going to reach out again to Chuck Francisco and see if we can get him on the show. He's always a fun guy to have on to promo the event, to kind of let us know what all's going on with the event every year. But last year, like everybody else, they kind of got hamstrung by COVID. And it wasn't until the very last minute that they kind of figured out how they were going to do it. And kudos to them for, stepping up. And if I'm not mistaken, I might be wrong about this, but I thought I saw that they won a Rondo Award for the festival last year. For anybody that doesn't know, the Rondo Awards are awards given out in the classic sci-fi horror, world for any kind of entertainment. It could be written, it could be podcast, it could be movies, it could be artwork, it could be a lot of different things. And one of the categories is Best Festival. And they were up against things like Monster Mania Bash and Monster Bash and a whole bunch of other ones. And I know they were nominated. I think I saw they won. So I can double check that either later on in the show or after the show. But just to be nominated for that, I know from talking to Chuck how last minute all that stuff was last year and how crazy it was. They did a hell of a job. I bought my online ticket last year, and basically it's going to run the same way this year. This year's theme is called House of Harris. And the reason it's called House of Harris is because they are going to be showing films from famed producer Jack Harris during the show, during the event. So far they've announced the movies Equinox, 4D Man, and Dinosaurus. So you got a couple of really cool special effects movies in there, some stop animation with Dinosaurus. And they're going to have Mr. Lobo, just got announced again to be a host this year. He's going to do a spook show. We're going to bring back the spook show on Saturday night. So it should be cool. It should be really interesting. And again, I want to reach out to Dash and see if I can get him on the show, and he can explain, when we get a little bit closer, he can explain what all they're getting into and what all they're going to be doing this year. What I do know is tickets aren't yet on sale. They go on sale on May 28th. So what is today, the 17th? Losing my mind here.
Today is the 13th.
All right. The voice of God says today is the 13th. Thank God Mike has a calendar.
I'm glad that you think I'm God.
Yeah.
I am the toxic God.
The toxic God. So anyway, 13th. All right, so like 2-ish weeks from now, the tickets go on sale. And I don't have the price here yet, but I know last year they were really reasonable. I think it was like $15 or something, and you get a whole weekend pass for the family, for the household. I think it was maybe $30 or something, and you get a shirt. It was a really cool shirt with really cool artwork that I wear my shirt all the time from actually from both of them, last summer, and then they did one in around Halloween. So it's, again, a really good deal, and we'll talk more about that as the date gets a little closer. But I did want to bring it up, just kind of throw it out there because, man, time gets away. I kind of saw them posting about that, and I thought, wow, they're really early with their posts. And then I looked at the calendar and realized, no, they're really not so early. We're talking about 7 or 8 weeks away. It's crazy, man. Time flies. Time freaking flies. So, Mike, since you're here and you're engaged with us,
yes, I am here.
You are here.
I mean, I really never leave this place.
I know.
I'm here all the time.
You're like the furniture.
I really am.
So I came across some more news today.
Did you?
One really good thing and one thing that I don't know. It depends on your opinion of this.
Okay.
So the first thing is, were you a fan of cereals like Count Chocula and Frankenberry?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I didn't like those in particular, but cereals nonetheless. I mean, if you're talking about those particular ones, no.
Yeah. So a lot of people were, and they actually stopped making those year round back in 2010.
Right.
They make them around Halloween now. You can only get them for a couple weeks around Halloween. So apparently this year, they're going to be upping their game, and they're going to be releasing a cereal called Monster Mash, which is basically all of those cereals combined.
What?
Into one giant bowl of cereal.
What?
Frankenberry, Fruit Brute. Remember Fruit Brute?
I don't remember that.
Fruit
Jesus,
Brute-
what is that?
He came later. He was the werewolf.
Really?
Fruit Brute was a werewolf.
No.
And the mummy was what the hell was a mummy called? I forget what the hell that was called. I don't know. I'm blanking on it right now.
You just blank on a lot of things, don't you?
It's, age.
So I'm trying to find the cereal right here, and I think I found it.
Blueberry was Blueberry was the ghost. Count Chocula, Frankenberry, Fruit Brute, and the mummy was called. Dan, if I remember what the hell the mummy was. I'll have to figure that out. It's going to drive me nuts.
Yeah.
But anyway, they're going to mix them all together, and they're going to make one big Monster Mash cereal they're going to release. I don't know the date exactly. I'm not sure if it's a Halloween thing or if it's going to be just released during the year. Hopefully they're going to release it during the year.
I'm seeing a few different versions of this, and I don't know if I'm finding the right one, but there's one that says Family Size Monster Mash, where it just has them all going into it.
Yeah.
But, I mean, people are going to go ape crazy over this stuff, because I mean, it is a cult classic. All the Count Chocula, Blueberry, Frankenberry. I mean, people hoard this cereal once it comes out just to keep it on their shelves at home.
Boxes of Blueberry.
I mean, they have their toilet paper, their gasoline, and then they got their boxes of Blueberry.
And Blueberry, of course.
that they hoard.
Of course. It's all about the essentials, baby. It's all about the essentials.
You gotta have the essentials.
So that's going to happen later this year. So we'll find out what the dates are on that, and I'll let you guys know so you can go out and hoard your Monster Mash cereal.
Buy them all up so nobody else can enjoy.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what America's all about.
Catch them all. Yummy Mummy. That's it. Dave Ayers is online here. He gave us the name of the mummy. Yummy Mummy. So you are right.
Dave also says, F gasoline and toilet paper. I'm hoarding that shit.
So the other story that I wanted to bring up, and this one, I guess it depends on your opinion of this person to begin with. Mm-hmm. So you know how everybody and their brother seems to get a reality TV show in the paranormal these days.
Yeah.
Everyone except people that actually do legitimate research, it seems. If you have a name, then you get a show. Mm-hmm. And once again, we've come down the road and we're putting a show together for somebody that just can't fathom that they're going to be real serious about this. I'm not even sure what the hell this girl's done. I vaguely recognize the name. Demi Lobotomy. I'm sorry, Lovato.
Demi Lobotomy?
Demi Lobotomy.
What the
Demi Lovato.
Demi Lobotomy.
Is going to get apparently is going to get a show of her very own.
You don't know who Demi Lovato is, by the way?
I vaguely remember the name. I think she has dark hair.
She's an American singer.
Christ
she's
knows
also
what
an
she's
actress. Appearing on the children's television series Barney and Friends.
Oh, well, then there you go.
Yeah.
I was 27, so. Wasn't catching my Barney fix.
But she's been all over. I mean, she's really well known as a pop rock star, singer-wise. But, yeah, she's done a lot of things.
Is her music more recent than, say, 15 to 18 years ago?
I want to say yes, but I'm not sure to tell you the truth.
That's why I don't give a shit.
It's very. I'm not like a Demi Lovato aficionado.
You're a super fan. You're wearing Demi Lovato underwear right now.
I'm looking up what movies she was in to kind of try and help you out.
Movies.
She was in. Well, she made an appearance on Grey's Anatomy,
Law
and Order.
There you go.
The Drew Barrymore show, the Kelly Clarkson show. She's been on there obviously because she's a singer.
So clearly she's qualified to hunt for UFOs.
The Voice. She was a judge.
There you go.
I would say she is pretty darn qualified, if you ask me.
Now here's why I don't have a problem with this.
Right.
All right. You'd think I would, given my salty
Wait a second.
comments.
She was in the Angry Birds movie.
There was an Angry Birds movie? Really? The video game? There was an Angry Birds movie?
Yes.
Was it a cartoon? Or were they actually birds?
No, it was a animated, computer animated feature film.
See, because that I would pay to see. Like you put like a death match between Cardinals and Blue Jays or something. Now that I would pay to see.
But yeah, so she's done a lot of stuff. I'm looking at her IMDb. It's pretty extensive.
So here's why I don't mind this. All right, send her out there.
Mm-hmm.
Poof up her hair.
Poof up her hair. I mean, you got to poof up the hair.
Get her a little makeup on. Have her
makeup.
trot out there in her fuck me pumps.
Yeah,
whatever.
She's a hoa.
And the closer she gets to the UFOs, the better chance she has to be abducted, and we never have to hear from her again.
I mean, that's what happened to Elvis and to Michael Jackson. So,
yeah.
I mean, anybody that goes to superstardom, like Demi Lovato, is the natural progression.
Yeah. Yeah. So, it's a natural progression. It's the next step in your career.
Right. That is,
be abducted by aliens.
Your agent primes you and gets you prepared to go with the aliens. That's what it's all for.
Yeah. I mean, I understand.
I mean, that's why Michael Jackson said, "This is it." This was it.
This is it.
He's going.
We're done. Moonwalk right away.
That's how he knew the moonwalk. He was being prepped.
Yeah, the whole time. Oh my God! All right, well let's do a little news. What do you think?
Yeah.
All right.
From the four corners of planet Earth, from the far reaches of the known universe, you can run, but you cannot escape. Paradelphia News.
See, for Mike alone, you have to tune into the stream.
I always feel a little bit more comfortable, a little bit more able to be myself on your show.
Yeah. Well, we talk about crazy shit, so
yeah.
You know.
I mean, yeah.
It's not like it's a stuck-up show. You know what I'm saying?
It is not like that damn D. Godfrey. I got you.
Who, by the way, I think he sold me out to talk about ghost sex tonight or something, didn't he?
Yeah. He backsold your show by telling everybody tune in because you're going to be talking about
ghost sex. All right. Well, I mean, it's a possible future topic, but I didn't prep ghost sex tonight.
And it is definitely a past topic, and I'm sure anybody listening to this show or watching this show can go back in previous episodes and sift through all of them, all of almost 300.
One in particular I remember was years ago. Remember, you probably remember this one because it was so freaking ridiculous. We did an entire show back the first time we were with Toxic, from your apartment. And we did a show on Bigfoot sex.
Yes,
remember
I
that show?
That one. I do remember that one.
And the stories were just so ridiculous. We spent like half the show laughing.
We did. It was, I mean, Bigfoot plus sex equals laughter. I mean, you could have a show on Broadway called Bigfoot Sex.
Bigfoot Sex.
And I think it will rival the Mormon show, whatever the hell that was.
The Mormon show?
Yeah.
Cats.
The Life of Mormon or something like that?
Life of Riley? I don't know.
Yes,
whatever.
maybe. Cats? Mr. Miscopheles? What? I don't know.
All right, so let's sidestep that. A new study from North Carolina State University states that greenhouse gas emissions from standing dead trees in wetland forests, commonly referred to as tree farts, need to be accounted for when assessing the environmental impact of dead trees, also known as ghost forests. So apparently ghost trees fart when they are dead. One never stops learning on this show.
Where did this? No, that doesn't happen.
I mean, I don't know. I suppose it's kind of like the emission, the gases come from the chlorophyll in the leaves and all that stuff. So I imagine that to some degree still happens.
I guess right here, microbes, like you were saying, microbes in trees produce gas in much the same way that microbes in the human body break down food and create gas.
Hence tree farts.
Methane. Mr. Methane. He used to be on Howard Stern.
Methane and ethane.
Methane then seeps out of the tree's barks or stems.
I think you're going to say butts.
However, researchers have found that some tree farts more than others. Some trees fart more than others.
Well, you know.
Wow.
You have Mexican. You can't help yourself.
Wow. Next time I'm out and I'm with a group of people walking by trees, I'm going to blame it on the tree.
Yeah, that tree. Here, look, I saved it on my phone. Here, read this. A veterinary nurse in I guess the name is Pwllheli, North Wales. Says
what?
I don't know. Just weird-ass names in England. Says she's never seen anything like it. A farmer brought a 3-eyed calf whose third eye had an eyelid and lashes and looked normal. That could explain why the calf's moos sounded more like ohms. I don't know what the hell that's supposed to mean. But a three-eyed calf. I think I've seen pictures of this week. I didn't mean to. I didn't look it up, but for some reason it was one of those.
I didn't mean to. How do you stumble? That's not something like you went into a YouTube tunnel and you just stumbled across it.
But that's the thing is I did. Like I was looking up whatever the hell I was looking up, and I remember seeing this picture of this freaking three-eyed calf or cow or whatever, and I didn't really follow up on it because I just there you go. Yeah, the middle eye.
That's
the all-knowing eye.
Now, can it see? That's the thing. You can't have a third eye if you can't see out of it.
Well, give it the finger and see what it does.
And what does that mean that you see in to a different dimension? Like what happens?
You got to ask the cow. I don't know.
So many questions aren't answered.
This happens to cows, and we can't.
You
have a
are
discussion.
a reporter. You are a broadcaster. You are a member of the press.
I will.
You need to figure out these tough questions.
I will try and get the cow in studio next week.
Please.
The three-eyed cow.
Can we need to lay down some paper, but yes, get him in. A lot of paper. Get him in.
A lot of paper. A video from Tullamore, Australia showed mice falling from the sky in a Fortean nightmare, but further investigation found the cause to be a farmer cleaning out a grain silo with a giant vacuum. Another sign of a massive rodent infestation plaguing Australia. So, yeah, mice falling from the sky was nothing more than a shop vac where they sucked up and shot it. How many mice do you have to have in your grain silo to be doing this?
But that's and how did you not realize that that's what's going on?
You hear thump, 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 as you're
how did you not know that that's what's happening around you, that you're just freaking out?
There we go.
Over these mice just falling from the sky. I mean, obviously some people need, if they didn't know what was going on, need to just think the apocalypse is happening.
It's raining mice. Hallelujah. It's raining mice.
That's a lot of mice.
That's a lot of mice.
That's a ton.
I think they're all dead, though.
Where is
it? No, there's one. He ran.
Some running.
He ran.
Yeah.
You got a survivor.
Some fighters.
Some fighters.
That's like the poster hanging on. They didn't want to. I see them running around.
There's a few of them.
Where's a good snake when you need one?
All right, a restored rare medieval statue in the shrine of Saint. Wow, Amphibolis.
Oh man, you picked the good ones.
I know. At St. Albans Cathedral in Hertfordshire, now wears a mask that cathedral officials say is meant to show the church is both medieval and modern. Church members plan to put their foot down if Saint Amphibolis showed up one day holding his arm. They try to make these funny, and they're just not. They don't make any sense.
It's not funny at all.
I don't know what is the mask for COVID? Is that what I'm
guessing so. What else are we wearing masks for these days?
I don't know. It's weird. All right, so the Reykjanes Peninsula of Iceland has a very large plot of land up for sale with an active volcano. These names, man. Mount Fagradalfjall,
Mount
Fago, which erupted with lava and toxic gases as recently as March 2021. Forget location. This is the property for someone who wants destabilization, regurgitation, and excavation. So if you want to buy a plot of land with an active volcano, I mean, it might be interesting.
I mean,
if you're Elon Musk, you're looking into this.
Yeah.
I mean, why not?
Well, I mean, you got the money.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
You could build something to make it so that you're not dying.
Right.
I'm intrigued. I'm in.
We're all intrigued.
Let's go.
Let's go.
New place for the studio.
New home.
New home.
A rare triple tsunami occurred recently off the coast of New Zealand when 3 separate earthquakes occurred, all over 7 points, within a few hours and within 1,000 kilometers of each other. A triple tsunami. Imagine that on your beach day. That's when you know you're out of luck.
I haven't heard of this. This happened?
Yeah, apparently. Triple tsunami.
I guess COVID just overtakes everything.
It really does. the nature and the world is just saying, you know what? Fuck you.
I mean,
we're done with you.
During this whole time, I mean, in all reality, we've had murder hornets. We've had the government actually admitting to UFOs, right. And people just don't care. They just want to go to the bar and not wear a mask.
They really are. They're kind of over it.
Yeah.
the government came out and said, yeah, UFOs are real, and people were just like, eh.
Yeah,
It just, what are you going to do? Wildlife photographers using a drone captured a video of 2 critically endangered North Atlantic right whales, there are only 400 left, hugging each other with their flippers in Cape Cod Bay. 2 of the 400 are getting it on in Cape Cod Bay, apparently. So, like, whale porn.
What?
I mean...
Is that what we're saying it is?
That's what I'm saying it is. You know. I mean, just... This is the video. Mike is right on it here. I say whale porn, and 3 seconds later, it's already on the screen.
It was in my history, my browser history.
No, what you got? Yeah, it was, wasn't it? Pornhub. What category is that?
No, that was Whale Hub.
Whale Hub. You got
to go to the blowhole section of Whale Hub.
You got to put some sexy music under it. Boom, chicka, boom.
But that's very reminiscent of the hugging otters.
The hugging
people love
otters?
seeing hugging otters. You never seen the hugging otters?
I mean, I don't know.
Oh, come on, Rick.
Have I ever seen otters hug? I mean, I may have in my life.
Have you ever seen an elephant fly?
You're gonna pull up hugging otters, aren't you?
I think it wasn't hugging otters. It was otters holding hands.
Oh, see, it's different.
It is different.
That's different.
It's definitely different, but it was a...
They're not at the hugging stage of the relationship.
They're there, but they're not fully. They're feeling it out. They don't know where they want to go with it.
They're like friends with benefits.
The girl otter is kind of teasing him.
She's got her lipstick on, her pumps,
So
there we go.
Yeah, otters like to have fun with each other.
It looks like they're playing patty cake or something.
I don't know. I mean, otters are very touchy-feely with each other.
Are they?
Yes.
I don't know a whole lot about otters. I'm surprised you do.
That's the other site, Otter Hub.
Otter Hub. Whale Hub and Otter Hub. Astronauts on long missions have to share spacesuits and their interior clothing to conserve space, so the ESA has a new project called Biocidal Advanced Coating Technology for Reducing Microbial Activity. Holy crap. To develop textiles with built-in bacteria-killing molecules. So basically, the people going up into space now are going to have clothing that actually kills germs. Which, why can't we have that down here? That would be. Where was this during COVID?
Because here's the whole deal. Just like what George Carlin said, you're going to have a weak immune system, and you're going to effing die because you're weak. Because your immune system didn't have enough time to practice to fight off germs. That's why he swam in raw sewage.
There you go.
I feel like playing that clip right now.
There you go. A Harvard University biologist has designed a powerful gene editing tool that can simultaneously edit millions of DNA sequences, keep track of them with a type of barcode, and never break a single delicate DNA strand. So that is pretty interesting. We're gonna have all kinds of weird shit happening.
It's crazy as hell that they can come up with this weird stuff. That's like, imagine you're at a bar with some guy and you're like, what do you do for a living? He's having a beer and he looks at you and he's like, yeah, I'm learning about gene editing and how we can edit molecules without blah 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 blah. And it's like what?
Like gene editing is basically like playing God.
Yeah.
Like you're creating mutants.
Mm-hmm. Oh my God. Oh, wait a minute. Are we talking Marvel? Or are we talking... which one are we talking here? Are we talking DC or are we talking Marvel?
I mean, either one, I suppose.
I mean, personally...
I go with Marvel usually, but...
personally, I want Marvel. But, some people might want DC.
Yeah. Nah. Nobody wants DC. We've seen that shit show. All right. So, let's get into the meat and potatoes here of our show.
Okay, right now?
Right now. No,
never mind.
That's a whole other meat and potatoes, and frankly, a whole other show. All right, so Elvis. So everybody knows Elvis as the king of rock and roll. Obviously, he died back in 1977, and everybody knows the story of his life, or at least most people that are over the age of, say, I don't know, 10. Have heard of him and know the songs he sings, and most people know how he passed away, and he's just an icon of rock music. And basically, there's a whole section of this man's life that most people don't know about. He was very, very, very involved in UFO lore, and UFO stories. He had multiple sightings in his life. And he had these beliefs that things weren't quite the way they seemed. He would have been a great guest for this show, frankly, because he really did. He really had this, far out idea or ideas about extraterrestrial life and life on this planet. And back then, obviously, we didn't have talk shows, we didn't have podcasts. There was really no outlet for people who believed in that stuff back in the 50s and 60s. A little bit more in the 70s, but by then he was, drugged out, doing shows in Vegas, half lit. But back when in his heyday, you really didn't have an outlet for that. So it doesn't surprise me necessarily that these stories didn't get out to the mainstream. But it's pretty interesting to hear about them now. So one of the quotes Elvis stated, and he made this statement to a woman named Wanda June Hill, who was a big fan of his, was a real close confidant of his for the last 15 years of his life. And one of the statements he made, he said, "I am not of this world." And I'm going to get to why he said that in a minute, because there is a reason. He went on to say, "I am a man, a human being now, but what is me is not from here. I am from out there. You think I'm making this up, but it's true." So, on these tapes, and these are statements. This isn't just her remembering. These are tapes that she actually recorded and had authenticated to. I think it was 5 out of 6, like 83% accuracy or something like that. That it was actually his voice, and apparently that's fairly high accuracy for such a thing. So, on these tapes, Elvis goes on to tell this Wanda friend Wanda that he met 2 men when he was a child, and they revealed themselves as light forms. Said one of them touched me, and I felt light inside, floating sort of. Often Elvis heard voices when he was alone, sometimes when he was in a closet being punished. They played music for him, spoke about his home planet, and showed him a man under stage lights dressed all in white. And at the time, Elvis didn't know what he was seeing. But later on, he came to realize that what he was seeing was the future. He was seeing himself in his white sequin jumpsuits doing stage shows years later. So this was all shown to him by these aliens, according to him. Now, this whole story starts off literally on the day he was born. Right? Elvis was born on January 8th, 1935. So he was born right in the smack dab the middle of the Depression, and he was born down in a real small shack in a town called Tupelo, Mississippi. In fact, I think we have a picture. I think I sent a picture in here just to see how small, talk about coming from nothing and making, that's not quite it. Talk about coming from nothing and making something of yourself. This shack looks like something you might go into for bait, if you're going to go out fishing for the day. Yeah, there it is. A little porch, maybe a couple of rooms, not a whole lot. But this is where he was born. So on January 8th, 1935, 3:30 a.m., on a snowy winter day in the middle of the Great Depression, apparently his birth at that moment was an extraordinary birth that was marked by the appearance of a mysterious blue UFO that shone over the house from above at the exact moment that Elvis made his grand entrance. Now, this was interesting because this wasn't something that he knew himself, because obviously he was a baby. And his dad, Vernon Presley, his dad basically hadn't mentioned it to him, hadn't remembered it even, for years afterwards. And what happened was they actually had a UFO sighting. The two of them had a UFO sighting years later. And it was only after this second UFO sighting that that Vernon, his dad, recalled what happened on the night he was born. So this is and all this is coming from. I should mention this too. All this is coming from a book called Alien Rock, which I found. There's many different stories about many different rock and roll stars. Elvis is just one of them. We can dig into others on a different day, but the book does sound really freaking interesting. So in this book, it says that around 1975, Vernon, his dad, said, "As I looked around, I noticed something strange." And this is on the day he was born. He's talking about the day Elvis was born. He's remembering this now, years later. He said the whole area around the house was lit up with a blue light. It seemed to surround the house, and just at that moment, the wind stopped blowing. It was so still you could hear a pin drop. The blue light startled Vernon, but he ran back into the house when he heard noise. Now, Elvis was apparently a twin. His twin was named Jesse, and his twin did not survive. So this was a twin birth that was going on. So he said Elvis's brother Jesse was stillborn. And there was also an unconfirmed report that when he was born, bottles lining a shelf inside the Presley home were shaking and bouncing and floating, levitating in the air. Now, whether this is true or not, whether this is Vernon making this up, I don't know. But you would think a couple things. Number one, they don't need to be any more popular or more well-known. He's not making this up for fame and fortune. He got that. He's Elvis's dad. He ain't, there's nothing you're going to say about UFOs. They're going to make you more relevant than being Elvis Presley's dad in the 1960s. But one of the things that's pretty interesting is this blue light that surrounded the house. One of the main components of any kind of UFO abduction, or many UFO abductions, seems to be the presence of a blue light. People who have abductions, they talk about this blue light that envelops them when they're going through this process. So it's pretty interesting that of all colors, he would have a blue light. So basically, when this happened, when this second sighting happened, this was when he and his dad were both out in the yard, and it triggered this memory of his birth. But the second sighting itself, there's a picture of blue lights. It was a dramatic sighting of a glowing flying saucer hovering above the backyard at Graceland for 5 minutes, witnessed by both Elvis and his dad. And that's what triggered the memories of this blue light when he was born. So this is years later when he had built Graceland, and I mean, I don't know the exact time when he built that, but I believe it was sometime in the mid-'60s, if I'm not mistaken. Mid to late 60s, he built Graceland. So we're talking years later. He was probably in his mid-30s at that point. So, and again, the blue light is interesting because it's a hallmark of abduction cases. And basically the blue light, they're not sure where it came from. The theory is it came from some kind of extraterrestrial source, but wherever it came from, it left this lasting impression on Elvis. Now, this is where it kind of goes off the rails. You thought that the UFO appearing at the time of his birth, much like the Star of Bethlehem, was crazy. So apparently Elvis had the ability to heal the sick. Again, did not ever hear this before in my entire life, but this book is stating, and I'll just read this right from the book. It says, the mysterious blue light, which may indeed have come from an extraterrestrial source, left an indelible impact on Elvis. Nowhere was that better illustrated than in Elvis's approach to healing the sick. Whenever the king did healing prayers, he would invoke the words, "First we must think of the blue light." He felt that the blue light held deep spiritual significance and empowered him to perform miracles. Blue was actually also, if you think about Elvis's career, blue was a very important color for him. Think about all the things having to do with Elvis Presley that had to do with blue, right? He wore a lot of blue jumpsuits and capes. He had a song called Blue Suede Shoes. He had another song called Indescribably Blue, which is believed to be Elvis's tribute to the blue light that accompanied his birth. Many of Elvis's best-selling songs had blue in the title. We mentioned blue suede shoes, Blue Moon of Kentucky, Blue Christmas. His movies, G.I. Blues, Blue Hawaii. So the man was all about the color blue. And I get it. Like, I like blue as well. But in the context of the story I just mentioned, it is a little weird. He's kind of overdoing the blue. And maybe there's a reason for that. All right. So it's, just these little, and again, none of this proves anything, but it is very interesting that it wasn't, red or purple or whatever, it was blue. So members of Elvis's inner circle, and he had this, this inner circle of people that they called the Memphis Mafia, which was basically his family, his very close friends, and basically nobody else. His business partner, his business manager, this guy named Colonel Tom Parker. Members of his inner circle have come forth in years after his death with accounts of Elvis's UFO encounters, both while living out in California and also while living at Graceland. He wound up seeing more than his share of UFOs, apparently. So, talking about some of these, one of the earliest UFO sightings apparently he had was in the 1950s out in the desert. It was an encounter with a rare cigar-shaped mothership that almost cost Lamar Fike, Elvis's 300-plus pound bodyguard, his life, and made Elvis think that he was about to be abducted by space aliens. So, again, Wanda Hill, his friend, became very close to him at the end of his life. Elvis spoke to her about this incident, and here's what he said. And again, these are Elvis's words on tape. He said, "We were away from the fire in the desert," meaning the campfire, "and we saw this light in the sky. Moving weird, I should do this like Elvis, but I just can't keep it up for the entire... Moving weird,
Please do that.
That's not going to work. Moving weird, like... not like a plane or anything like it. And it was different looking than a plane. It got brighter, and it was coming closer. Hell, it was way up there. But we could see it on account of the moon and the way it was lit up. It was cigar-shaped, oblong and rounded, and had some window portals on one end and had lights on the bottom. But the damn thing had no wings. No means of being up there at all that we could see." And Elvis continued, "Well, we were watching it, and the guys at camp started hollering because they saw it too. And then we all ran to each other and got quiet when we heard the sound it made. It was like electricity, like a buzzing metallic sound. Not like any engine we ever heard. And then it got kind of over top of us. High, still high, mind you, but up there over top of us. Our hair began to prickle. It stood up on my arms and on my head, and I got this weird feeling, like I was about to float at any minute. Like when you have two people put their hands over top of your head, and I don't know when anybody does this in normal life, but let's just run with the quote here. Like when you have two people put their hands over top of your head and then lift you off the floor and you're real light. You go up fast like an elevator. You ever do that?" "Well, no, Elvis, I don't." "That's kind of fucking weird." "Yeah, right." Well, I thought they were going to take me. Well, I thought they were going to take me, man. That's what he says. But we all felt it, and then Lamar starts groaning, and he fell on his face. Flat in the sand on his face. And we all got kind of spooked because he was like dead. He had no heartbeat. And I started pounding his chest, and Jerry, meaning his bodyguard, Jerry Schilling, was giving him mouth to mouth, And he came around fast, and he was yelling about flying saucers taking him off, but the thing was gone when he came around. So that is one of the sightings that he had. Another one involved his wife, Priscilla. So Priscilla Presley, he married Priscilla, again, the mid-50s. I'm sorry, not mid-50s, mid-60s. A little controversial because I think she was like, 14 when she married him or something?
Something like
So,
that.
yeah, it was a little creepy, a little rapey. Not gonna lie to you. I mean, I don't normally, give much of a shit about, you're a little younger, but I mean, that's a bit much. Little rapey. You're marrying a 14-year-old. He was like 20. whatever it was. So anyway, Elvis's wife Priscilla revealed that she once spotted him in the backyard of their Bel Air home staring up at, quote, planets moving across the sky for long periods in the darkness of the early morning hours. He was convinced, and nearly had us convinced, that there were energy waves so powerful that they caused the stars to glide through the universe. All right. So again, these are all things that we talk about on this show sometimes, and people that are interested in the paranormal, it's not such a far-fetched thing. It's not so very crazy. But this is Elvis, man. This is nobody knew this about Elvis. He didn't write a book. He didn't go on a documentary. He just kind of had these beliefs, and he kept them to his inner circle. And all these years later, now these are coming up. Here's another one here. It says, while driving through the New Mexico desert, Route 66 with Jerry Schilling and Larry Geller in the 1960s, Elvis sighted a flying saucer across the night sky, in a giant arc. Geller asked Elvis, I guess they were kind of pontificating on this. He asked him, hey, man, if they want to tell us something, why don't they land on the White House lawn or the Pentagon or contact our leaders instead of visiting an occasional individual out in the boondocks in the middle of the night? And Elvis said to this, he said, I've thought about this. Maybe they don't want to cause a panic. Maybe they want us to evolve spiritually by giving us a chance to make our own decisions. They'll work quietly behind the scenes, influencing us without appearing to. And Geller asked, well, how will they do that? And Elvis says, by the power of their mind, which must vastly be superior to ours. Or they couldn't be flying across the sky, and they wouldn't let us blow ourselves up either, meaning the nuclear bombs. Now, these are all interesting little tidbits. The man only lived to be 42, and he had all these UFO sightings. If all these are to be believed, that's quite a few in quite a short amount of years. But Elvis kind of low-key was telling people about these beliefs. And nobody would have really picked up on this. But, for example, one of Elvis's favorite symbols was the phoenix. Right, the phoenix was represented in many of his jumpsuits that he wore, red, blue, black versions. The phoenix symbolizes immortality, resurrection, and life after death. All right, so rising like the phoenix. All right. So he kind of like, the blue with everything, the symbolism of the phoenix. All these little things were kind of his, I guess, low-key way to to kind of throw it out there and represent his beliefs. This guy, Larry Geller, was kind of interesting. He was basically Elvis's spiritual guru. Yeah, there's right there. There's on the screen. He's got a white jumpsuit with a phoenix on the front of it. And nobody would have thought twice about that. It's just, one of those cool 70s, it almost looks like it's Native American. But, apparently it meant something else to him. So this guy, Larry Geller, he had a lot to do with turning Elvis onto metaphysical subjects. Eventually, it got to a point where Colonel Parker, who was Elvis's manager, fired Geller and then ordered all of the king's beloved metaphysical books burned. And Elvis was not happy. He was pissed. But this guy was, I guess he was old school. He was looking out for the business end. And I guess he felt like if any of this ever got out, then Elvis would be looked at like a kook. And, he was Elvis, so you would think that, well, maybe that wouldn't have mattered so much. People would have still gone to see Elvis because at that point he was a legend. But, I guess he didn't want to take a chance. But this guy Geller, under his guidance, Elvis had discovered that he had possessed supernatural powers that enabled him to move clouds in the sky. Again, just reading from the book. Don't know if this is true or not. He demonstrated this cloud-moving ability to his friends in the desert in New Mexico. They found it hard to believe what they had apparently just witnessed with their own eyes. Again, Wanda June Hill, his friend, said that when she asked Elvis for his views about levitation, he moved a heavy green glass ashtray from one side of a marble-topped cocktail table to the other without touching it. The ashtray is in Wanda's collection of presents Elvis gave her over the years. Elvis's supernatural powers did not stop with moving clouds and ashtrays. To his amazement, the king discovered that he could heal the sick simply by laying on hands. We mentioned this a few minutes ago. So a couple of examples of this. All right. And again, nothing that anybody that I know of ever heard of from Elvis. We did not hear that Elvis was a damn faith healer. Apparently he was. Joe Esposito, Elvis's friend and road manager during the 60s and 70s, recalled an incident in which one of Elvis's backup singers, a woman named Sylvia, who was a member of the group called the Sweet Inspirations, was diagnosed with cancer. According to Esposito, Elvis came to her dressing room, put his hands on her stomach, and began to pray. The next day, the hospital gave Sylvia a clean bill of health. There was no sign of the cancer whatsoever. Elvis had performed what can only be called a miracle. Another one is Larry Geller, who was the spiritual advisor, was riding with Elvis on a bus when the king saw a man fall into the gutter with a heart attack. Elvis stopped the bus, and I watched. This is Geller talking now. Elvis stopped the bus, and I watched as he put his hand on the man's chest. The man said, "It's you. It's you," and just got up. So he clearly recognized him and got up from a fatal heart attack. Again, you hear these stories and you think one of two things. Either they're trying to embellish and make Elvis into even more of a big deal than he was, or if this really happened, they're coming out with it now after all these years because I guess they feel that after all this time, his legacy is not going to be damaged by this. He is who he is. He's, 40 whatever years after he died, he's the king of rock and roll. That's not going to change. Raymond Moody. We've talked about him before on the show. Raymond Moody was the doctor who wrote the very first book about near-death experiences and life after life. He's a well-respected doctor, longtime researcher on near-death experience. He documented case after case where Elvis appeared to have visited people after his death. So now we're getting into the territory of the Weekly World News. Because for quite a while after he died, people were seeing Elvis.
Oh, yeah. I remember that even was going on when I was a kid.
Right.
The Elvis sightings.
Right. Now, you can laugh at that and you can say, well, that's just, tabloid bullshit. I mean, I don't know. Maybe if all this other stuff is true, maybe there was something to it. So one of the stories here is actually about a New Jersey housewife by the name of Dorothy Sherry. She was in her 30s at the time, and she claimed that beginning in January 1978, now Elvis died in August of 77, so beginning in January 78, the spirit of Elvis appeared to her regularly and took her on a number of astral flights to show her there was life on the other side. Dorothy told Holzer, Holzer refers to Hans Holzer, who is a paranormal researcher. Dorothy told Holzer, "I took Elvis's hand, and as I turned around, I looked back at myself sitting on the couch. Then we went through a sort of tube or tunnel with bright lights on the other end. Sometimes Elvis took her to beautiful landscapes, and other times they visited Graceland or Elvis's dressing room at the Hilton Hotel in Las Vegas. From these visits, Dorothy learned important details about particular pieces of furniture in a room or the names of people in Elvis's life that led Holzer to believe that she was the genuine article. An important piece of evidence was that Dorothy's mother witnessed some of her daughter's astral trips. Whereas Dorothy would see Elvis as a real man, the mother could only make out a shadow. In time, Dorothy turned to automatic writing, a trance technique with a long history in the psychic realm, to communicate with Elvis. The messages were mostly spiritual. Please make people aware of the other side, that we are not dead, Elvis pleaded to Dorothy. Life goes on. This is only a bus stop. Death is not the end. So, what? Some Elvis sightings, or supposed Elvis sightings. Mike's popping up here. That does not look like Elvis. That looks like the guy who was on Dukes of Hazzard. Uncle Jesse.
Yes, it does.
Looks like Uncle Jesse. And as far as posthumous encounters, he had these that we just talked about. And then there's also, in 1978, a total of 13 flying saucers were reported over Elvis's grave at Graceland. Several times, orange-lit saucers have hovered as close as 20 feet over the silent tomb and shone laser lights onto the cold stone before zooming off into the clouds, said one security guard at Graceland's rear gate, adding, "Use my name and I will lose my job." The guard said that he had seen spacecraft around Graceland several times. They usually come between 2 and 4 in the morning when hardly anyone is around. So all this is to say that Elvis was a weird dude, a lot more strange than he let on, a lot more strange than most people gave him credit for. How much of this is legitimately true, I don't know. We have his voice recordings, and they seem to be accurate. They seem to be legitimate. But, again, that's not proof. It's proof that maybe he believed what he was saying, or that he said these things. But it's not proof of, especially like the faith healings and things like that. Like, I would love to get or hear from these people who he saved. Where is this backup singer that he saved? Where is this guy who, he saved from a heart attack? If we can get them to go on the record and say something, that makes it a little more legitimate. As far as the UFO sightings, it's all weird. It's very strange. He does seem to have a lot of people in his inner circle backing him up. But again, he's Elvis fucking Presley. What are you going to do? Call him a liar? Like, people are not going to do that. So you got to kind of take that in consideration, too. Even after his death, people are not going to call him out and disparage his legacy by calling him a liar, which is kind of a weird position to be in. Either you say he's telling the truth and he had all these UFO sightings and he was a faith healer, which is batshit crazy to begin with, or you dispute it and you ruin his legacy. So those people kind of have to be in a weird position. All right. So that's, in a nutshell, that is the story of Elvis and his paranormal UFO encounters. So, Skeptic Mike, I know you've been champing at the bit here. What do you think?
I think people are batshit crazy. I think that individuals are keeping this story going because it keeps the I don't want to say legacy, but the
spotlight.
Yeah, the spotlight on Elvis and the story, and just makes it revisits that thought process, and also makes it kind of cool to other people that wouldn't be totally into it, and gives them reasons to go to Graceland. I look at it as a marketing thing,
in a way,
a marketing scheme, just like the sightings of Elvis and is he still alive, and people wanting to believe and people continuing to collect. And I mean, when you were talking about the sightings over top of Graceland, that gives people reasons to go there at night. And, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
I don't know. It seems too far-fetched. And I think that a lot of things in our society and in our world are more so, especially when it goes into the realm of individuals that were in the public eye and the media and entertainers, more so than not, a lot of it is marketing. Not to say that others aren't telling the truth, that things didn't happen,
right?
But there are individuals who can benefit from these stories that will fuel the flames.
Yeah.
So, I mean, at the same token, we're a very weird dude, to say the least. Anybody that reaches that level of fame is in some way, shape, or form weird.
Yeah.
And it's possible that some of those stories, whether or not they are real in the terms of it was extraterrestrials or was actual UFOs, I think they could be absolutely true. But it's one of those things we will never know what it actually was.
Yeah. All right, so this information came out of a book that I've only scratched the surface of. I really want to dig into this book, and there's at least, 5 or 6 more shows worth of material in this book, because it's pretty cool. It's called Alien Rock.
We're going for 5 hours tonight.
It's called Alien Rock: The Rock and Roll Extraterrestrial Connection by Michael Luckman. We'll put a link in the show notes. But if you want to check that out, it seems like it's a pretty cool read, and we're going to dig into some more of the chapters and topics later on at a different date. All right, so we're going to wrap things up for the night, but I do want to mention to you guys to go to our social media. All right, we are at Paradelphia on Twitter. Go to Facebook, look up Paradelphia. Also, Toxic Radio. All right, you go to Twitter at Toxic Radio Live, and look them up on Facebook as well and YouTube. All right, and you guys will have all the listings for all the shows and all the links for all the different shows on their website. Go to the website, toxicradio.net. That's always in our show notes as well. All right, guys, so it's been a fun evening. I want to thank Mike and Jamie for producing the show in the unbelievably hot control room. And it really is. We'll be back next week. Not sure about the show topic next week, but I'm sure it'll be something fun and interesting. It always is. All right, so for our production crew, I am Rick Pruitt. We are Paradelphia, and we are out of here.